What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So Alyssa and I are back going to be talking about the season finale of Survivor Season 34 Game Changers. This is honestly so crazy. This is the earliest we have ever podcasted on the finale day. What a riveting 3 hours we had. So my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and I'm honestly a little bit dead right now because I woke up at 7 o'clock this morning so I could move out of my dorm. So I've been awake for like 16 hours, but it's okay. We're all going to be okay because Survivor is happening, and Survivor is obviously more important than sleep.
Yeah, so I'm going on a conference this weekend, so we wouldn't have been able to podcast till Monday, and last time we did that, the podcast just never happened. So we were like, we need to podcast today. So it is 8 o'clock where I'm at, and then East Coast time it is 11 o'clock for Alyssa. So this is honestly the earliest podcast we've ever done and everything. And I was very, very angry at the beginning of the episode because my live streams wouldn't work. I could not find the illegal stream online. So I missed the first 20 minutes of the episode, and I was really, really anxious, I guess, about that.
Yeah, I was trying to explain to Rachel what was happening as I was also watching the show. So we're all kinds of mess right now, but it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I was so confused. I was like, I thought this was a reward challenge. Then you're like, no, this was actually the immunity challenge. I was like, since when did these people start working together? I was honestly so confused. But everything ended out good, I feel like.
20 minutes can change a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sarah was crowned as the winner of season 34 of Survivor, and that was, for me, it was frustrating. Just because, I respect that Sarah played a good game, and I feel like part of the reason why I found this so frustrating was the fact that it was really obvious from the beginning that she was going to be the winner. Just, she had a lot of confessionals, where she wasn't really necessary, and, pretty much after the merge, it was all but set in stone that Sarah would be the winner. And while, I appreciate that she played a good game, I, as a viewer, like to, wonder a little more, who's going to win? Who's going to win? And, this last couple episodes kind of made Brad a contender, but not really, and then he was portrayed in a pretty bad light tonight, and so I think it was pretty obvious that Sarah was going to win, and I feel like that might be part of the reason why I'm not as pleased with her being a winner.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way, Alyssa. I feel like Sarah was pretty invisible before the merge. We didn't really see her. I think in our podcast, we were like, Sarah who? Because she did not have any screen time. And then her screen time really picked up after the merge. And I think it's sort of the editing for this season was sort of similar. I think we've mentioned it before, but to Co Wrong. So Brain Brown Beauty 2, because I feel for that season, Michelle really started to get a lot of screen time, right after the merge as well. And that's when I remember saying oh, Michelle is getting the winner edit. She's getting a lot more confessionals, stuff like that. So I really feel similar to this season, Sarah started to get a lot more confessionals, things like that. And she did play a really good game. And I really think at Tribal Council, Sarah really highlighted the things that she did above and beyond, able to make those relationships. She was able to sort of say the things she did well without putting other people down. So I feel personally, Sarah did a really nice job at Tribal Council with the whole Sierra thing. I voted you out, but I kept that relationship enough so you would give me that advantage. And then with the Michaela secret advantage by her feet, I feel Sarah really worded that well.
Yeah, and one of the things I liked about this final Tribal Council was the fact that it wasn't a complete blowout, and I've been saying in our live chat right now that I was really happy that someone other than Sarah received votes, just because we get a lot of completely unanimous Tribal Councils, and I feel it really came down to what the jurors respected, because Ozzy, as a very physical player, respected the physical gameplay a lot more than Zeke, who's a very strategic player. And I feel like it was a little bit unfair that Sarah said, well, Brad was a professional football player and he was a professional athlete, so obviously he's going to be good at, like, the physical side of the game, just because, like, that was several years ago. And anyone who's approaching 50 can tell you that it isn't easy to keep your body in, like, super good shape. Like, obviously I'm not that old, but, like, our parents are getting older. We see how, like even simple activities can be, like, harder for them as their bodies start to wear out and stuff like that. So the fact that he was able to, like, tie Ozzy for immunity wins is, like, crazy, and he tied the record. So yeah.
Yeah, I really liked how it wasn't a blowout at Tribal Council also, because, like, when watching, I was like, I feel like the jury could go in multiple ways. Like, maybe Sarah isn't the winner. And kudos to Alyssa in our last podcast. She guessed the final 3 correctly. So yay for that. But yeah, I feel like, there was a contender between Brad and Sarah for who could win the game. And I really think it, like, depended on the jury. Because, like, in previous seasons, we've seen a lot more, like, one person getting all the unanimous votes and things like that. But I really feel like this season, it made me nervous at Final Tribal Council. I was like, damn, maybe Sarah, like, before Final Tribal Council even started, I was like, damn, maybe the jury dislikes Sarah and Brad so much that they want to vote Troyan as the winner. Like, maybe that shit could have happened. Like, there's so many different scenarios, I feel like, with this kind of final 3, and I really enjoyed how it wasn't like a 10-0 vote. And I really also liked, like, the new Socratic seminar version of Tribal Council. I really feel like allowed everyone to not just get their question, but to also sort of, like, bounce, like, views and stuff off of each other.
I think it was really interesting how, like, the jury members were playing off of each other, because, like, jury members would not cut off other jury members, but they were more able to argue on behalf of, like, the person that they wanted to vote for, which I think is something that, like, a lot of times you'll see a jury member, like, making a speech in favor of one person or another, but this time they, like, really were allowed to defend their person if they wanted to. So I thought that was interesting. And it also, I feel like, allowed for more follow-up questions and stuff like that, especially, like, if someone on the jury who didn't ask the original question had something that they wanted to say. Like, what comes to mind is Haley asked Brad, so you used condescension as a strategy, and, like, that was one of the times she really spoke up at this final tribal. And, like, in the normal question and answer type thing, she wouldn't have been able to do that. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I definitely liked how it does give, like, a lot more people the ability to talk, because with the question, like, you ask the question, they answer, but if someone sort of has, like, a follow-up question after that, like, it's never going to get answered. So a lot of things are sort of up in the air. But yeah, I really like this final tribal council setup. Like, everyone was just sitting down also, so it's very equal. It's not like one person has to go stand at the podium and then, like, they ask their question. So I really like this final tribal council, and I really feel like this is something good that Survivor is doing. I feel like we've talked throughout the season, like, the amount of different immunities and, like, different advantages that CBS is trying to stick in the show. But, like, I think this is one of the good changes to have this kind of tribal council setting. And then I also feel bad for, like, Troyan. He got, like, 0 questions, and then in his, like, closing arguments, he basically sort of conceded.
Yeah, I feel like Troyan kind of realized that by the end of it, he only really got, like, 1 or 2 questions directed towards him. So I feel like when you're at the final tribal council and no one really wants to ask you anything, you know that you've kind of lost. But I feel like part of it is, I feel like Troyan and a lot of other people are beginning to appreciate that you don't necessarily have to win the game in order to get something out of it. Like, obviously, that's always been a part of what Survivor is, because only 1 out of every 20 people gets to win the game. And, like, even fewer people actually get to go on the game. So I feel like he gave it was the experience that mattered speech without actually saying it in such cliche words.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're in that sort of position as Troyan is in, which is like sort of a bummer when you sort of feel and you know that you're not going to get the votes, you're not going to win the game. You can't really be in your closing statement like, everyone vote for me because I did this, this, this. If you sort of feel that like your fellow castaways are not leaning in that direction. So I feel like Troyan, he took it really well. He did the whole, like, I really enjoyed my time out here, and, I know I'm not going to win, but, like, I'm really grateful for this experience. And I feel like anyone who has played Survivor, and hopefully Alyssa and I can play one day, that, like, that's the outlook I feel like you have to leave the game with. Like, not everyone can win, and if you are lucky enough to win Survivor, like, that's awesome. But just like walking away with the experience, knowing that you are like 1 out of the 20 out of like the millions or thousands of people who apply every time, like, it's such like an honor and a great experience, I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like that's definitely something that like everyone needs to appreciate in order to appreciate the full experience of the game. So
yeah, so I mean, I think good for Troyan at the final tribal council. I feel like we sort of mentioned earlier, Brad had a lot of really good screen time at the beginning of the season, talking about Monica a lot, talking about like interior decorating as a hobby and stuff like that. So it's like, wow, Brad is like a new person from his past season, Blood versus Water. I sort of felt like, wow, this is a new Brad. Like, this is really cool. And then I feel like in the recent episodes, and then definitely in this finale, it was more of a Brad as he was in Blood versus Water, like the guy who is sort of rubs people the wrong way. And I feel like we saw it when he won that immunity challenge and he had that big outburst at the immunity challenge. It sort of reminded me of Brad from Blood versus Water. And then I was like, oh, like, that's not good for Brad. Like, I feel like he really needed to like control that, I guess, at final tribal and like in the ending days of the game.
So one thing that I saw on the Facebook group that Rachel and I are both a part of about Survivor is that hashtag what would Monica do actually came back to like bite Brad in the butt, because what did Monica do? Monica came in second place. So in following what would Monica do, Brad was destined to repeat her mistakes and destined to come in second place. So that's some food for thought right there.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I think overall, like, how would you rate this season, Alyssa?
I feel like this is just kind of an season. Like the fact that a lot of the like players that I personally like love got out early on was kind of upsetting. Like I would have loved to see like Tony and Malcolm and Sandra get to play longer. So I feel like that combined with the fact that someone was literally default voted out was like, it really dropped the rating for me. So, and also, like I said, I'm not really a fan of Sarah as a winner, so.
Yeah, I definitely feel like we've talked about this before in our preseason stuff with the whole like game changers title, as like, all the big name people would probably be voted out early. And like, yeah, I definitely second what you're saying. Like, I wish Malcolm was there, JT, all of them, Tony, Sandra, like everyone like that I really would have wanted to see play again got voted out early. And I was really sort of bummed at the final reunion show that they didn't really talk to those people. I feel like Jeff really could have talked to Malcolm, like the way you were voted out, Malcolm. Like they mentioned Cirie in that like new vote out ways. And I feel like talking to Malcolm would have been good there. And I think it's just sort of crazy. Alyssa and I did like our cast assessment video for season 34, like just a year ago, like around this time. And now like the whole season's ending. But definitely when we were doing our preseason stuff, predicting the winner and things like that, we definitely thought, a female, like underrated female the first time would come and win the game the second time. And I think, that sort of shows true with Sarah winning the game. And I sort of like, we drew this connection earlier, but I definitely feel like it's sort of like Tony won, then Sarah won. It's sort of like the Natalie won and then Jeremy won. So next returnee season, you need to have that duo and then one of them wins.
Yeah. So, even though Sarah ended up on top this episode, I feel like at the beginning she was really not portrayed in a flattering light, because at the beginning of this episode, Sarah was just pissed. And she was like yelling at Cirie and yelling at Ty, and basically the only people she didn't yell at were Aubry and Brad, I feel like, because, yeah. But so after the aftermath of last tribal, wherein Cirie tried to steal Sarah's vote steal from her, Sarah basically like ripped Cirie a new one, like, you were betraying me, you should have trusted me, blah 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 blah. And like she wouldn't really let Cirie explain like what she thought was going on. And then as soon as Sarah calmed down enough to like let Cirie explain, she was actually like, haha, you're actually right, sorry about that.
Wait, yeah, so I missed this part of the episode. The stupid streams wouldn't work. So I was very confused coming in after the immunity challenge. But I think, like, even we mentioned it last week, like, last week's episode was so rushed when Alyssa was trying to explain to me, like, why Sarah was angry, like, why no one likes Ty anymore. I was like, wait, like, what happened last week? Because I honestly didn't remember, because the whole Michaela vote out was so quick. I feel like we didn't really get much explanation as to why Sarah and them chose Michaela to be voted out, and as to why, like, everyone was sort of iffy about this whole vote. I don't know. It's just like, I feel like the whole ending of this season seemed very rushed.
Yeah, I feel like the fact that like there wasn't as much time, because I feel like this was a couple episodes shorter than normal, like made it feel super rushed. And then for what you were saying about like the reason why they decided to vote Cirie out, or not Cirie, Michaela. Yeah, it was exactly what I said last week, where Sarah was like, Michaela is Cirie's right-hand person, and so I wanted her out, especially because she thought Cirie had betrayed her. So
yeah, that makes sense. Like, honestly, like, I don't know. I wish we saw more of the like background story for that. I definitely would prefer to see, if they do like double boot episodes, seeing it as 2 hours instead of 2 episodes stuffed into 1 hour, because then we like didn't have any more reward challenges after like 2 weeks ago, unless they stuck like the reward with the immunity challenge. And I always think it's fun to see like the different challenges they had. I feel like this finale had a lot of really cool challenges that I would love to participate in. They seemed like very, very fun.
yeah, but so after the whole blow up with Sarah, I'm still going to summarize since Rachel still wasn't around for any of this. After the whole blow up with Sarah, Ty kind of fell out of her good graces because Ty admitted that he had thrown Sarah's name out there. So Ty was scrambling for an alliance, and so he decides that a good way to get an alliance is to tell someone about his idols. And so one thing I thought about Ty was he told Brad that he had 2 idols, and to me that just doesn't make sense. Like, telling Brad that you had an idol would like have the same effect, and then Brad wouldn't have been able to do any of his like manipulative mind game mumbo jumbo where he was like trying to get Ty to give him one of the idols. So I feel like Ty he did the right thing, but he took it a step too far, and that can be just as dangerous, I feel like, as doing the wrong thing. So I feel like that is one thing that Ty did wrong, and I don't think there was ever any question about whether or not Ty would win this season, because he like hasn't really been getting like solid screen time for a while now. Excuse me.
Yeah, I sort of feel like for Ty, it's definitely sort of a repeat of what happened last season. Like, he became just very unlikable to his castmates and things like that. And I was like, I feel like Ty tried really hard to get rid of, oh my God, that like aura of like, you know, like he tried to change his game. I'll be right back, Alyssa. Go on a monologue.
Oh, I love it when I get to monologue. But I feel like one of the things Rachel said was like Ty became unlikable to his castmates, and I'm not sure if that's exactly true, because I think that Ty was likable as a person still, but he wasn't likable as an ally or as a player. like Ty made the same mistake again of like being very flip-floppity, and he never really declared his allegiance, I feel like. Excuse me. And so when it came down to it, like when he did flip again against Sarah, and someone finally like gave him his comeuppance, I guess you could say. And so like even though I think it's clear that everyone who plays with Ty likes him as a person, they get so frustrated with him. And that's like what Brad was saying, like during the reunion show, he got so frustrated with Ty and frustrated with like Ty's attitude towards everything. And I feel like that's where he has his problem now with the social game.
No, yeah, I definitely feel that. I feel like, Ty tried to change his game. I feel like he became more personable. He wasn't trying to be like as flippy floppy as like he was doing it the other time. But I think in the end, like it's sort of just like it's hard to change who you are. It's hard to change your game. And I think we saw that a lot with this season. Ty gave his immunity idol to Cirie to try to gain those like kudos and favors and stuff like that. But I feel like with a lot of the jury members, we saw it in the Ponderosa videos as well, but a lot of the jury members did end up in the same exact position as they did last season. So like Ozzy did, Haley did, Debbie did. So I feel like it's just like difficult to change who you are, to change your game. And I guess like sometimes, it's like where you end up is how far you are going to get in the game of Survivor.
I feel like it's really interesting because I took a psychology class this semester, and one of the things that my psychology teacher said, like at least once a class, was the id always comes through. And so like who you are like beneath the surface is always going to end up showing up with who you are. And that's like why it's really hard to like fake a mental illness or something like that, because who you really are will eventually end up shining through. And I feel like we've talked a lot about like what the mental toll of deception on Survivor is, and like why there are people who refuse to play the game again. And so it's like who you are is eventually going to shine through. And while there are some cases where it's circumstantial, like we talked a lot about that, I feel like last week, where sometimes you just get fucked over by the numbers. Or like you make one bad move. Like you see someone who, like Sarah was like a jury member the first time and then won this time. And then Tony won his first time and like came in very low this time. So it's like who you are will shine through, and whether or not that is a winner can change, but not by much.
Yeah, like I definitely feel that. I feel like even like going to a new school, we're always like, oh, like I'll change who I am. You can like reinvent yourself per se. But like, honestly, if like you're acting as someone like who you're not, it's definitely so tiresome, especially without food, without water, without sleep, everything like that. It adds up. And like, I feel like a major theme with Survivor is sort of like your lies catch up to you. So basically, if you're spewing lies like every single day, it's going to be hard to keep track of that. So I definitely feel like changing your game, and every time we have returning seasons, everyone's like, I'm going to change my game. I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to do that differently. I feel like we do see a lot of people fall into the same traps that they did the first time they played the game.
So like one thing that you said that made me think of a quote is Abraham Lincoln once said, "No man has a good enough memory to be a successful liar." And so like what you were saying about like your lies are going to catch up to you, eventually you're just not going to be able to remember them all. And 39 days of lies is a lot.
Yeah, I definitely like 100% that is relatable. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like so Brad wins the immunity reward. He brings Sarah and Tony, and I guess Alyssa, I also missed this part, but they bonded on this reward.
Yeah, he brought Troy, not Tony. Tony got voted out a long time ago. So like Rachel asked me like why'd they bring Sarah? And so like my explanation for why they brought Sarah with them was they saw how pissed Sarah was at Cirie and at Ty, and they saw her as an opportunity to get a number. And so to me, like that was a really great thing, because Excuse me. It was a really great thing because it kind of shifted the dynamics of the tribe, just because like Sarah kind of was working with whoever would get her further, and so to switch again for her, I feel like kept things kind of interesting rather than just people like picking off one by one by one. But so it seemed like it was really easy to get her to like jump into bed with them, I guess, for lack of a better metaphor. And I feel like that was because she felt so betrayed by everything.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like Sarah's like gameplay this season was very much so like sort of like Sandra's gameplay, like anyone but me. We see Sandra was flipping a lot come merge time, and I remember Alyssa and I were like, you know, that's sort of dangerous. You don't want to accidentally become the middle person again, like your first season, Sarah, and then be voted out because you are the middle person. So I definitely feel like Sarah sort of did have the same similar game as she did her previous seasons, but maybe because all these people are like returners, that like, you know, it doesn't bother them as much, I guess. But I don't know, I keep losing my train of thought, but I feel like, yeah, with Sarah, she's definitely, I feel like, I don't know, with this reward challenge as the final reward challenge of the season, right before all of the rest of the final tribal councils and all of like that, I feel like this was a major turning point in the game because it solidified, as we saw, a final three deal that was able to keep throughout the end. And sometimes, you know, we don't really see final three deals per se work out, but I definitely feel like this was like a really big turning point in the game because it did allow Sarah to become close with Brad and Troyan, and we never really saw them work together previously.
I think it's also really interesting because like we saw kind of the perils, I feel like, of playing emotionally throughout this game. And like, excuse me, for Sarah, playing emotionally this time actually worked. Because she like,
Alyssa keeps coughing.
Yeah, I'm like losing my voice. But so like, she left Cirie and Ty and Aubry because of emotions, and she got into a better place because of it.
Yeah, and so I mean, this first tribal council, I feel like was also a turning point for Ty in solidifying sort of like majority minority or like different alliances that could have worked out. I was I was also confused at this point. I was like, what the hell is happening? But Ty basically was choosing between either sticking with Brad, you know, showing his trust, alliance, loyalty to Brad with the immunity idol, or potentially going with Aubry. And I mean, I don't know. I think so. Ty went with Aubry. He gave Aubry the immunity idol. But then next vote, Ty is like, I'm so down to vote Aubry out. So I feel like Ty doing this wasn't really in his best interest.
I feel like Ty has been doing a lot of things that might not necessarily be in his best interest. And like they were saying during one of the final tribals, like you're trying to get through this one day at a time, especially when you're so close to day 39. So I feel like when Ty did give Aubry the idol, he didn't give it to her like with the intention of flipping on her, but like that was the clearest path forward to the finals. So that's the path that he took.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to tell like in the moment, you know, what the heck's gonna happen now. But I definitely feel like Ty giving Aubry the hidden immunity idol sort of sealed his fate as a like fourth place finisher, just missing out on final tribal council. But like in the moment, you definitely don't know what's going to happen. You think you're doing the right thing, like you want to do this, you want to do that, and you never really know how things are going to work out. But I feel like because he sort of betrayed Brad and Brad became really angry with him after that, like, I don't know. I feel it depends, honestly. If Ty really thought he could have won the game, then this was like his $1 million mistake. But while watching the season for Alyssa and I, you know, we did not think Ty could win the game. So honestly, like fourth place or like second, like in final tribal council, like when he was in co-wrong, it's all first loser, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of dislike the quote, second place is the first loser, but I also kind of feel like it fits. So, yeah. But so we talked about Ty playing his idol on Aubry, and that led to possibly one of the most infuriating tribal councils ever, wherein someone who got no votes was voted out.
Alyssa, I was so sad. I was crying. I was like, damn. If Aubry were the one to go home at the final 6, like we predicted, like she has been getting this purple edit throughout the whole season, I'd be fine with it. I'd be like, yeah, Aubry got fucked over by all of these advantages. We could see it coming. When Ty stands up, plays the idol for himself, then he plays the idol for Aubry, and then I started doing the math. I was like, fuck, Sarah has the other advantage. Troyan has the other idol. Like,
my favorite part of this tribal council was the look on the jury's faces, because like as every new idol came out, they were like, what's happening? What's happening?
Yeah, like everyone became safe. And then I was trying to do the math. I was like, okay, Ty played his idols. Like Troyan better play his stuff after he sees everyone else stand up and like give Jeff their like clues and things like that. I was like, damn, Troyan's about to play. Also, Troyan plays it. I'm like, oh my God, Cirie is the only one left without any sort of immunity. And this is honestly the saddest thing ever. Sort of like Malcolm going home, basically for not doing anything wrong in his own game. I feel like Cirie could have made it further in the game, maybe final 3, but definitely past this vote. I feel like it was so sad because Cirie, as a 4-time player of Survivor, you know, the only woman to play 4 times in the game, she missed her son's high school graduation to come and play this game. Like, it's honestly, she's going out of the game a hero, but it's really honestly a bummer because playing a 5th time for Cirie, I don't know, I feel like it would be a heroes versus villains sort of season where Cirie would go home early. I feel like she cannot, same with Ozzy, they cannot get past their best, and their best is always so close and yet so far, which is such like a bummer.
Yeah, it really is a bummer, and I feel like you could see it like on all of the jury members' faces, like when they one by one started putting the pieces together. And then like they gave Cirie like a standing ovation, and like Jeff let her say the tribe has spoken, which I still feel like was not really appropriate because the tribe didn't say shit about Cirie. It was all the immunity idols. So the idols have spoken.
Honestly, like, damn, this is not the way we want to see our people go home.
I feel like this at least is going to like help in the future them be at least a little bit less liberal with the amount of immunity advantages they place into the game, because I feel like Jeff was not pleased that Cirie went home in such a fashion, and like as a producer he kind of has a say in those things, so he definitely could like be like, okay guys, we can't have this happen again. So
yeah, and honestly though, like Cirie going home, so sad. I feel like similar to Malcolm going home, doing nothing wrong in their own game. Like Cirie, I don't even know. There's definitely no words to say. I feel like she does go out a hero. Everyone, like you said, did give her a standing ovation, which I was like, this is honestly such a great moment. I feel like Cirie throughout the season, from the whole reward challenge thing to basically being able to start believing in herself. You know, Cirie has not always had the most physical game out there. She's more of a strategic social player, but I definitely feel like Cirie this season was able to grow as a person, and she had so many good scenes and so many things. Like, I did not expect this as her way to go home.
Yeah, I feel like it was just it's like when you watch like a fireworks show and then the finale turns out to be a bunch of duds. That's like the best metaphor I can come up with at 11:41 p.m.
Yeah, so this was honestly so sad. The beginning of the episode, I was like, if I were Cirie at that tribal council, I would just start crying. Like, this is not meant to happen. You are not supposed to be voted out with no votes. Malcolm isn't supposed to be voted out when no one from his tribe is actually voting him out. Like, I would have just cried and be like, Jeff, I quit your game. This is terrible. I'm leaving.
Yeah, I feel like at least it's good though because it doesn't let them get voted out later when it could have been their own fault, maybe. Like, I feel like Malcolm could have won the game, but he also could have been voted out at a different time for being a strategic threat. And like they brought him up at the final tribal council. They were like, if Malcolm was here, and now y'all would probably be here. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Malcolm had like on preseason ranking stuff, like everyone thought Malcolm had the highest chance of winning the game. And then he goes home, like, so sad. We're not even over this, apparently. So Cirie going home, honestly, yeah, she goes home a hero. I feel like Cirie can play the game again 5 times. She definitely alludes to it at the reunion and the tribal council and stuff like that. I really want to see, but like Cirie wouldn't be invited back for an all-winner season. Ozzy wouldn't be invited back. Like all of these Survivor legends, just something is not right that they're so close and so far.
I feel like it's really interesting because it shows that you don't have to win Survivor to be a good Survivor player.
Yeah, so, I mean, we sort of talked about Aubry here in this part of the podcast. Like, I'm just confused about her edit, really. We did not see a lot from Aubry. A lot of people thought that Aubry would be idled out. Last week, Alyssa and I thought that Aubry would be the one to go home at 6 with all of these crazy advantages and stuff like that. But Aubry just basically had a dud of a season, which is really, really interesting and crazy because she went out in a normal fashion.
Yeah, I feel like it's really interesting just because Aubry, like, she has this joke on her Twitter that I've already referenced about, like, all of her alliance members basically, like, getting voted out. And so I feel like part of the reason is they couldn't give Aubry, like, a story arc as an edit without it being like, look at how shitty Aubry is. All of her alliance members keep getting voted out. So I feel like given the choice between villainizing Aubry and, like, not giving her much content at all, they would rather, like, not give her much content.
Yeah, so I mean, Alyssa, you can talk about Aubry. You love her at the tribal council. She looked gorgeous.
Aubry, I love you. If you're watching this, I love you. I love you. But yeah, I just like, I think it was really interesting because Aubry didn't get to sit on the jury and co-wrong. And so the fact that she was so excited about it, I was just like, I feel like that's a great attitude to have for a jury member to be like, oh yeah, I totally want to like see, I believe Aubry says, I want to see what these psychopaths are doing. So
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely what you want to do if you do play 2 times. Like one time make final tribal, then the other time, make the jury. Like check out Ponderosa. See like what that's like because I think the Ponderosa pre-jury trip and everything is probably so litty. Like it's like a new facet of the game Survivor, I definitely feel like.
yeah. And also just like who else is on the jury makes it so different because like there are some people that are like a good time.
Yeah, like I think we mentioned it before. I really would have wanted to see the pre-jury like Ponderosa, like the pre-jury trips because everyone voted out pre-merge was so fun and things like that. So I definitely would have wanted to see their perspectives and things like
tweeting about it, and he's been tweeting like, "Oh yeah, Tony broke Caleb's finger," and all this crazy shit.
Yeah, like that would have been freaking amazing to see Ponderosa videos for. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like the rest of the episode, so Cirie goes home, then Aubry goes home, then Ty goes home. It was sort of like, yeah, like that's what we could have saw happening after you see like the first vote. Everyone sort of flips on Ty and Aubry. And I think that goes to show like Aubry has been basically playing from the underdog, from the bottom of the game throughout this whole entire freaking game, All of her people keep getting voted out. Tony was voted out and she wanted to work with him. Like ever since the start, Aubry was fighting against the wall, I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like it's one of those things where sometimes when you get backed into a corner, you can get out of it, but sometimes you just can't. And we talk about how luck has a role in the show, so.
Yeah, and I don't know, at this tribal council, Troyan, he is the only one who's like, I can beat everyone up here. And then at final tribal council, he's not getting any questions. Everyone sort of knows that Troyan's a joke on the season.
Except
So,
Troyan.
yeah, like I don't even know like if he's just that confident in his gameplay that he was like, I can beat all 5 of these people up here, or if it's sort of like I need to appear confident in front of everyone. Like, dude, I don't know. Like that must be so sad to think you're playing such a good game, but then come like final tribal council or something like that, and then it turns out like your game was actually shit.
Yeah, and I wonder why Troyan was so confident, so.
Yeah, I mean, Troyan did not make it to the end of the game, or Troyan did not win the game, so I win a bet, and now I get a foot massage.
I'm not sure why you're betting this, but okay. Yeah, but Brad, we already talked about this, but like Brad made a mistake by choosing Sarah instead of Ty. Like you saw that it would have been a 5-5 tie on the jury, and then Troyan would have voted for Brad. I thought it was really interesting that Jeff finally revealed like what happens in case of a tie at the final.
Yeah, we have never heard of that like thus far. I thought it was really interesting. I think either I messaged you or I messaged someone. I was like, Brad could be making $1 million mistake right now, potentially. I feel like if Brad went to the finals with Troyan and Ty, Brad wins the game. I feel like we've definitely talked about this, Alyssa. Brad going with Sarah and Troyan or Sarah and Ty, it definitely makes it more like iffy because Sarah is such a good competitor. And I don't know, it's just like sort of interesting to see like the different perceptions. Like obviously as a viewer, we're like, Sarah's a good competitor, like Brad should pick not Sarah to bring to the end. But in the moment, Brad must have been like, I feel confident enough in keeping Sarah and voting with my emotions to vote Ty out at Final Four. Whereas I think looking back, obviously now we know like Jeff Probst was like saying it was $1 million mistake. But I really think it is interesting to think about, like, at that moment, Brad is like, I truly hate Ty. I need to get him out of the game. I want to go with Sarah.
I feel like it's really interesting because, like, whenever someone comes in second place, we're so easy to point out, like, oh, this is their $1 million mistake. And like Brad said, like when he was being mean to Ty, I really needed a Snickers. And it's like, it's something as simple as like being really hungry that can like make you make that $1 million mistake we're always quoting.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like we see that in a lot of seasons, maybe like emotion sort of over strategy. And I know, Alyssa, you talked about this last episode where like you'd rather see people bring actual competitors to the end of the game. So like you're not bringing all the goats to the end, whereas I was more like, oh yeah, like bring all the goats to the end, so then you're like a 90% for sure going to win. Whereas like we saw here, it could have been 50-50, things like that could have one win you or could have won you or lost you the game.
Yeah, so Survivor is a really interesting game, and like I said, Sarah is a winner, like not the worst thing that could have happened, but not the best thing either. We'd really like to hear what you guys think about whether Brad or Sarah should have won, or if you can give us an argument for Troyan. Sure, argue for Troy. We love that guy, even if he's not a great like Survivor winner material. And then
I think Sarah did a lot in the game. Like she definitely deserves the win, I feel like. We hear Brad say, like I don't need the $1 million because he was a pro sports player. So I think that's also really interesting whether, I really feel like it shouldn't be about like who needs the money. It should be about who played the best gameplay. But I definitely feel like factors of your personal life do go into Survivor, and people want to give the money to people who actually need the money rather than people who don't really need $1 million or something like that, which is also like a really interesting facet of the game.
Yeah, but in these upcoming weeks, obviously Survivor is not going to be on because it ended today. So if you guys have any videos that you want to see from us during this hiatus, please put them in the comments down below. We have some stuff in the works already, including a revisiting of our Survivor First Impressions video and some other videos that we're going to be doing, including one that may star my sister. So that's interesting.
If you guys have any more Survivor challenges that you want to see us try, we filmed some over winter break. We did like the slide puzzle, like the rainbow cube thing. We have one where we're gonna balance balls. That is going to be uploaded soon. So if you have any more of those challenges you want to see, we're definitely open to trying these new things. I'm going to be going back to Maryland, so Alyssa and I can actually film videos in person, have to wear pants in our videos again. I am very, very excited for that. But yeah, any other Survivor related videos, we definitely want to do like a first impressions for the new Survivor theme that we were alluded to for Survivor season 35. I'm excited for the future. I'm really like, it's sort of nostalgic. Like this season is coming to a close. Alyssa and I did so much for the preseason of this season because everything came out so early with the whole game changers, like 20 returning castaways. And like, honestly, this chapter is closing and it's just like so sad, but it's like, I'm excited for new castaways to venture into the Survivor world.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see new people. But like, as always, thank you all for liking, commenting, and subscribing. We're really excited that we got to finish another season of Survivor with you, and we're going to be starting a new one soon. So yeah, thanks for letting us live our dream. We'll see you next week.
Yay!
Bye.